Kritika Online is a Korean MMORPG with versions already up in Southeast Asia, Korea, and China, and is now being published for the West by Enmasse Entertainment, the game publisher most known for hosting Terra. Beta testing for the Western version is set to begin in May, with an official release date not yet revealed. The game seems to have been flying under the radar, with the community for it still quite small for the West. Today I'll tell you things you should know about Kritika to help you decide if it's a game worth checking out, or if it's just another one to pass on. Everything I'll talk about is based on several weeks of gameplay on the Southeast Asian version, and things I've talked about with more experienced members of the game's community. Kritika is an extremely fast-paced action brawler MMO with anime-like graphics and gameplay focused mainly on dungeons and small-scale PvP like 1v1, 3v3, and so on. It's in the same vein as games like Dragon Nest, Hero Wars, and C9 with more of a focus on really fast-paced combat. There are 7 core classes to choose from: Rogue, Mage, Reaper, Warrior, Eclair, Noblia, and the latest one, Monk. Every class has very different playstyle and combat speed, and the variety branches out even more with job advancements. The job advancement you choose completely changes how your character is played. For example, the Rogue deals fast damage with dual daggers, much like typical assassin type of class in other games, but it eventually has the option to turn into a Mystic Wolf Guardian or a Cat Acrobat, 2 very different classes. The Mystic Wolf Guardian fights by combining skills with a Sacred Wolf Companion, and the Cat Acrobat fights alone with claw-like attacks and lots of jumping around. All classes are gender locked, and the initial character creation has very little to offer in terms of making a character look unique, but the game does offer fashion items as you'd expect from a Korean MMO. One thing you'll notice from the beginning, the moment you start making your character, is that the game doesn't hold back at all when it comes to fan service. Most NPCs and even your own character, if you're playing a female one, have certain very highlighted features. I also want to mention that there is an actual story to the game that you'll be following, with mechs and evil magic involved, but I wouldn't know what it's about since I paid no attention to it whatsoever. The game's world is a series of connected instance towns that act as hubs with all the basic NPCs for things like repairing gear, buying potions, and all those essential basic things you can expect to see in RPGs. It is not an open world, and areas are locked by your level and progression, which is okay since the world itself is very clearly not what they wanted to be the selling point of the game. They put a lot of their focus in other things. The main attraction for this game is the combination of good ultra fast-paced combat and arena match types of small-scale PvP. This game's combat is about pulling off good combos and properly dodging and countering opponents. For example, misusing escapes have consequences and often lead to getting locked down. Of course it varies with each class, but that's the kind of combat you can expect. As far as I know, there's 4 different types of PvP. 1v1, 3v3, capture the flag, and droid fights. 1v1 and 3v3 are straight up just kill the opposing team type of game, with multiple rounds in each match. Capture the flag works exactly like you'd imagine. One team member takes a flag from the opposing team's base, then tries to bring it back home before the other team can. Droid fights is a mix of PvE and PvP in a sense that you'll be racing to kill bosses, but you're able to interfere and kill the opposing team. I don't know much about the last one since I haven't tried it, and I don't know if it's even in all of the current versions of the game yet, but I do know droid fights exist. The game's combat has good fluidity and feels very satisfying. In PvP you'll easily see why it's a strong point of the game when you manage to pull off your combos. The PvP types are only small scale, which appeals to the PvPers that are more competitive in nature. These 2 things combined are pretty much the biggest reason people play Kritika. There are other reasons why people like the game that I can think of, like good class variety, but from what I can gather, the appeal is very much so the combat and arenas. The main PvE of Kritika are its dungeons. That's pretty much what you do in the game besides PvP. Early on, it's extremely basic and straightforward. You go in, kill lots of trash mobs in 2 to 3 hits, then at the end, fight a boss that's got more HP and a bit more mechanics. And then you repeat the same process with the higher difficulties that open up when you clear a dungeon. In later levels, dungeons get more difficult and more variations open up, like dungeons with hordes of monsters you have to wipe out in waves. Despite the variations, the actual concept of mindlessly hacking and slashing your way to the end doesn't change too much. I also want to note that the game has a fatigue system that limits the number of dungeons and things you can do, similar to the labor system in Arcade. Kritika doesn't offer variety when it comes to random gaming activities, but I feel it doesn't really need to do so. It offers easily accessible, adrenaline-rushing PvP in a fantasy-themed game, as well as a wide selection of classes with very unique playstyles to choose from. It's a game that knows exactly what it is and sticks to what it's good at. It's not trying to be revolutionary or anything like that. If you're looking for a fantasy-themed game with good combat and want to just jump on in PvP, Kritika might be a good game to try. Keep in mind though that the game's PVE is almost mindless in nature and the graphics are pretty old. If you can look past that, it's a decent game. If you can't, then it likely won't be a good experience for you. For me, it was a pretty fun game, but not something I feel I can play for a long time. Maybe for a few rounds of arena with friends once in a while. Anyways, that's pretty much all the important stuff I can think of to sum up Kritika. Of course, there's always things like crafting and even fishing, but they're not anything special in this game, and I doubt they'll be convincing factors to want or not want to play the game, so I'm not gonna go over them. I think there's a fair chance of Kritika doing well in the Western market, cause games in the same subgenre like Dragon Nest are getting super old. However, I've been told that Kritika is a pretty pay-to-win game in other regions due to avatars or fashion items having stats, but I don't really know much about that, and things like that can vary depending on the publisher. I'm trying to branch out and cover more and more games lately, and I'm enjoying it a lot so far, so you can expect to see more explained and review type of videos on other games. I hope you guys will like them, and thank you so much for watching.